I actually think every day is normal. The markets go up and down, markets move, markets respond to political issues, political uncertainties. But I would clearly say we are in a period of time with these mega cycles, we're in a period of time with so many transitions. Whether it's a transition from deflation to inflation, a geopolitical transition, and where does that go? The fragmentation of supply chains is just beginning. We have policies in so many democracies that have moved from policies that I would say were embedded for more deflation, and now the policies are more embedded in inflation.
Well, as we adjust to that, you have Jamie Dimon, for example, saying rates in the U.S. could go to 7%, and we're not ready for it. Is he right?
Look, we all have opinions. I mean, I've been saying for over a year.
I want to know your opinion, Larry.
My opinion is we're going to have 10-year rates at least at 5% or higher. Because of this embedded inflation. This structural inflation is unlike anything. And I think business leaders and politicians are not providing the foundation to help explain this. We have not seen inflation like this in over 30 years. Actually, I was a young bond trader during the late 70s and where we had hyperinflation. I don't think we're going to have anything close to the inflation of the 70s, but we have so much deeper structural inflation, and we are underestimating the change in geopolitics is so structurally inflationary. When I was in Davos earlier this year, I heard the phrase national security uttered everywhere. And quite frankly, I never heard those phrases uttered that often before that in all my years. So national security for chips or food or energy, obviously energy, and all these issues. And the question is at what cost? And nobody answers that question, at what cost?
Well, you said politicians, governments, they need to do a better job of explaining this, of talking. What would that actually look like?
Well, I mean, they have to recognize if we are going to focus on the whole idea about restricting immigration, big topic here in Germany, big topic in the United States. We are down in the United States, close to 3 million legal immigrants. We've changed the immigration policy. At the same time, there's so many job needs. And in the United States, we've had close to $1 trillion of fiscal stimulus just beginning its J-curve. And these are huge job creators. And at the same time, we have restricted immigration. And as a result of it, we see more wage pressure. So at what cost? We have, in the United States, a very protracted strike between the auto workers and the auto companies. It has been reported that the union is asking for a 40% increase. So at what cost? In the long run, what does that mean for jobs? Do more jobs move? I see more fear than any time in my business career.
What are you hopeful about, Larry? What is that hope?
Look, I'm a long-term optimist, and we build BlackRock on optimism. We are the largest retirement manager in the world. Okay, why on earth anybody would ever put their savings into something that may have a 30-year outcome? My gosh, that is optimism. Okay, if you're not optimistic that 30 years hence is a better outcome, you're going to keep all your money in a bank. Right. But Danny, what's going on in China is a great example of fear. Before COVID, the Chinese, who are unbelievable savers, they saved 35% of disposable income. 35%. Think about that. Now, they did it because there's no safety nets of healthcare like we have here in Germany, no safety nets of retirement, one-child family, all these dynamic issues. During COVID and the fear and the lockdowns and the changes of policies, savings rates in China right now are 50%. And that's fear.
And they're struggling to reinvigorate the economy at this point.
Because they're frightened.
But what does that look like on the ground for the investors in the crown? You at BlackRock, how do you look at this? Is there a way to capitalize on it? Do you pull back? What do you do with a problem like this?
Right now, I think in our mega trends, and right now we are underinvested in China. We believe structurally until we see savings rates, which is in my mind, when we see savings rates decline and they're consuming more, that's an indication of more hope. That they don't need to save as much, that they can consume, they can do other things. To me, these are very big macro trends. But I just want to say the biggest issue is we as business leaders, we as political leaders, if we don't provide more certainty and more hope, this is what causes recessions. This is what causes pullbacks.
So to be clear, because there are a lot of calls of a recession, hard landing, soft landing, no landing. They've all lost their meaning at this point. Let's be honest. So in this era of fear, of no hope, are we headed for recession right now?
Well, there's not no hope. It's all, I'm hopeful.
Let's hope. Larry's hopeful. We're happy about that. But does that mean we are headed for a recession right now?
So I think we have to analyze that by each region, because the United States, our home mortgage market is based on a 30-year mortgage. So anybody who has a home mortgage, higher interest rates does not impact them. And so the transmission of high elevated interest rates in the U.S. takes much longer to impact the economy. Whereas in other places where you have more floating rate, or like in the United Kingdom where you have generally a 5-year fixed and then it resets. And so let's assume 20% of the mortgages have to be, reevaluated at a higher level. That creates more immediacy at higher rates. So I think we're going to see some economies enter recessions early.
Which ones would that be?
Well, I think Europe.
Is anyone's more sensitive to
the ones that are more sensitive to this elevated interest rates, and you're starting to see a real decline in GDP and other. They're basically flat now, but can they go into a more protracted recession? Whatever the recessions we're going to have, they're going to be quite modest. So I'm not even that fearful. But I believe if we have labor shortages, if getting back to this whole social issue of how are we going to be doing this, in many areas you may need a recession to bring down labor demand. And I think this is one of the things that's going to impact in the United States. You still have a very vibrant economy. The United States, and as I said, the J curve of the Infrastructure Act, the CHIPS Act, the IRA, which has huge implications, that's going to be creating jobs. And so it may require a more protracted Federal Reserve, and it may mean by 2025 the United States economy may be entering a recession, but I don't see it any time in the near term. I worry about it. I think it's going to be a crisis in the future. I believe we are hitting thresholds of just too much debt. The only solution we have now is reorienting, reimagining how we finance growth. And I think the way we're going to be able to finance growth is public-private. There's so much private money that is looking for great long-term investments to work, whether that is in power grids or infrastructure, in sustainability, charging stations, you name it. And so in all our conversations is how can we reimagine finance? How can we find a better structure? And how can we then leverage public finance with private capital to augment growth?
Right.
And this is going to be the big key for the next 10 years. Now, is there new risks when you have these big pools of money in capital markets? Unquestionably. Should there be
what are they, though? What are the risks?
I mean, right now, in the world, we're moving more and more private credit from the banking system to the capital markets. The one beauty of banking, when they provided a loan to a medium and small business, they generally have a banking relationship. They generally have deposits. They're generally more patient. The question will be when you're in an investment firm, are you going to provide that patience to that small and medium company that may be struggling? And there lies the tension. They're not going to be as patient. And that could create a real structural issue. And if there was a deep recession where many small and medium businesses are being threatened, we are going to see then a more immediate reaction. The transmission is going to be very quick, quicker than the banking system, because the banks have other businesses, and if somebody in the private market is just providing a loan and there's no other interconnection, then they're going to have to do the right thing on behalf of their owners of capital. As a fiduciary, they're going to have to call a loan, they're going to have to repossess property or whatever that may be. And so I'm not saying that's a risk at all. What I'm trying to say, we need to talk about what are the dynamics, what are the changes are when there is a real ecosystem change. Well, that was probably my biggest learning experience of my life. So let's start there. And I promised myself when we lost money and we did not understand the risks we were taking, and that was the foundation of Aladdin, which is the largest risk system in the world. And so you can't avoid risk. In fact, those who avoid risk make no returns. Okay, but you have to be aware of the risk. You have to study risk. You have to be self-aware of the risk you're taking. So I would just say it's just as bad. And actually, in the year before we lost that money, we were the #1 profit center for a couple of years before. We might have been foolish, but everybody loved it when you made a lot of money because we did not understand why we were making so much money. Okay, everybody understand when you lost money.
Right.
So the biggest lesson I ever had in my life was I want to know every moment, every day, as much as possible, the intended risks we're taking. And so the foundation when we started BlackRock 35 years, and 25% of our people were technology people, which was kind of unheard of in the financial services area. And now we have built the largest, most comprehensive risk system that is utilized by governments, by central banks, by insurance companies, by wealth managers, and by pension funds around the world.